Happy road.
Sit on while you're reading. Would you like a stool?
No, it's grand.
Are you sure? Will you open the book? Sorry about all the boxes, but it's... I did. Go first. But anyway, that's that one.
Then you start buying. I'm not going to the brown. I'm not there. Yes, buy that. Yes.
Oh no, I'm not.
No, I'm not going to the brown about anything.
Shop this afternoon, and especially for a very special person, Pauline Fayne, who's been a friend of Writers' Week for longer than I've been a friend of Writers' Week. When I came back to Listowel, she was one of the first people that I met that was a regular of Writers' Week, and she kept me filled in and who was who, and where the crack was, and where the best places were to go after I finished work in the pub, which was late enough. So please, give a very warm welcome to Pauline, and who else is going to talk now? Joan McBrien is going to formally introduce a fellow poet and writer is going to introduce Pauline. So welcome everybody and enjoy the afternoon. All right?
Good afternoon everybody, and thank you very much indeed for coming in here on such a beautiful day to celebrate the launch of Pauline's new book. I'd like to thank Brenda and the staff here at the bookshop for hosting the event. Now, Pauline's new book, Mowing in the Dark, New and Selected Poems, is here in my hand, and it's both a pleasure and an honour for me to have been invited by Pauline and the Committee of Writers' Week 2011 to talk to you a little about this publication and about its author. Now, I've known Pauline for many, many years. George Rowley was here earlier and he said, don't date it.
Behind me.
You're there, George, yeah, you're behind me.
Every word you say.
Yeah, at the risk of being murdered, I'm going to date it. Pauline, I think you and I and George, indeed, we go back in our association with Writers' Week to 1986 actually.
76.
You're 76, so I started coming in 85, 86. And it's a long time, and we've met here over and over. I've been a long time admirer of her poetry. I first read her first collection, Journey, published by Shevek Press, Dublin in 1979. So it was then no surprise to me that she went on to publish Killer of Fishes 2001 and I'm Fine, really, 2005 from Stonebridge Press. When I was myself researching and collecting the material from my 1991 anthology, the White Page on Villog Vaughan, 20th Century Irish Women Poets, I was delighted to include the work of this extraordinary Dublin woman poet, and she's represented in my own anthology with her poem Optimism, which I'd like to read for you now, if you would bear with me. And this is how Pauline was presented in the White Page. The book was organised in this way: a photograph, a bio, biblio, and one poem. Optimism. Tripped by misjudged moves and alcohol-sparked words, into the 3 o'clock in the morning gutter, I watched the two-faced moon sidle across the brightening sky, await the inevitable sober dawn, while in the puddle beneath my feet a sycamore leaf glistens, frost crystallized, a heelless shoe dances in the rain flow, and a child's lost marble winks its golden eye. I was always very grateful to Pauline for giving me the gift of that poem for that particular anthology. Now, Pauline in her poetry scrutinises her past with a rare honesty and integrity, which, as I have said in the words I offered her publisher some time ago, is all too rarely found in contemporary poetry. Pauline has had her poetry broadcast by RTE Radio 1 and by BBC Radio 4, and she has given readings nationally and internationally. From Tala in Dublin, she has been a founder member of the Clothesline Writers Group and the Clothesline Press, and she has worked with the artist Bridget Wallace, who's here, I believe, this afternoon, and whose work magnificently graces the cover of Pauline's book. Bridget is from Limerick, and Pauline has also worked with the Tala Community Arts Centre. Now, I'm going to come on to something that's very near my heart and which gives me joy and saddens me. When I speak the word clothesline, I think of all the women who carry their washing in and out, and who give birth, who marry, give birth, or don't marry and give birth, raise and nurture children, and who are also poets. I salute Pauline for her tenacity, her bravery and her determination, and who, like all her fellow women poets here and around the world, continue, despite all the odds, to search through their poetry for their own personal identity, and who win through to share their experiences and joys and sorrows with us, their beloved readers. The world of poetry and literature and art would be a poorer place without the voices of women like Pauline. Her poems are here once again in this beautifully produced volume, published by the Revival Press from Limerick, for all of us to savour and enjoy. I offer you, Pauline, my congratulations, and congratulations to everybody involved in the publication of this book, and I urge you all to buy it in multiples and go out and tell the world. I hope it sells 1 million. Keep writing your lovely poems, Pauline, and please stay well back from that clothesline. That will be there when you are gone, but your poetry will live on and on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joan, for that speech. It was very eloquent and very moving. I want to give my deepest thanks to Dominic Taylor from Revival Press for publishing Mowing in the Dark, to Joan for her advice and her patience with my punctuation. She taught me what an apostrophe was for. To Brenda for hosting the launch, and to everybody in Listowel and on the Writers' Week committee, especially the people in Listowel who did novenas during the week that the books would arrive today by 4 o'clock. You're all very kind. I'm just going to read some from each section of the book. I'll start with the earliest work from Journey and finish with the new one. Portrait of a Man. Brimming with confidence in your supreme competence with words, they slipped as easily across your tongue as the working man's Guinness you sipped between puns. A student of the working class, interpret that how you will, it is to them I raise my glass. By closing time, you're closeted in the corner, baffling yet another with your words. Idealism and idiocy go hand in hand. Why don't we? Art. There are those whose art is wholly contained in the chessboard's symmetric, unsensual shape. The player, caressing his queen, places her in a compromising position with the bishop, while the king remains unmoved, held in his pawned dungeon, until the board at last clear, he is allowed to make a stand. There are those who think my art is but the wild whisperings of the dead, see only fallacy in my words. From Killer of Fishes, the title poem, Killer of Fishes. Unseen among streaming willows, the girl watches, grey-green eyes probing the man's shaded profile. In the town, they say he's a woman's man, but when he raises glass and voice in song, their words are hollowed. She moves silently closer, watching his gentling hands, lift blooded hook from gleam-gashed mouth, and patiently plans their accidental meeting, imagining his male-scented touch and wondering which bait appeals to a killer of fishes. Father, to my 8-year-old eyes, you were 8 feet tall, a black helmeted giant, muscles straining to lift the heavy Norton bike that some in their ignorance said hastened your death. They couldn't know what I, your clinging pillion partner, knew. It was then you were most alive, singing your way along Ringsend docks to the engine's throbbing beat. Swanee, how I love ya, how I love ya. And these are from I'm Fine Really. Tap dancing in stilettos. I'm sure everybody remembers how people with stilettos used to ruin the lino. Yeah. The very expensive lino. The blousy woman lit the room, preening at our childish interest. We who had never seen a mouth so scarlet, eyelashes so long, or a skirt so short. Tap dancing in stilettos, she patterned our gleaming new lino with her teetering rhythm, before tittering her way to the gate with promises of parties, trips to the flicks, and calling again soon. As she disappeared beyond the street light, a voice behind me said, "Bloody well for."
Sounds very familiar.
The lady's tale. Stepping lightly across chicken-scratched earth, she senses mother's gaze, willing her to walk straight-spined as the corseted gentry, knees bending in mock genuflection before the stale millet stench of the brooding boxes, soft hands outstretched to shit-stained eggs. Egg money carefully hoarded buys the requisites for a lady, black court shoes, linen hankies, and the annual ritual of virginal lace gloves and new clothes to greet the risen Christ. Greet too the flushed youths and middle-aged farmers, their faces laced with fear of being left to die alone on a windy hill where cattle sing an unmilked dirge, of never being boss or gaffer or dado, for who in this place knew a man to call his father, father? A title reserved for God or the parish priest, face set in perpetual sorrow at men whose belief that kneeling in the church porch praying for the pub to open fulfills religious obligation. And here where the priest is the only man of learning, the lady in white gloves watches from the women's aisle the faces of potential husbands, eyes as lonely as her own. And when she migrates the 6 miles to the city is not missed, made separate since birth by her mother's ambition. Now I read a couple from the new. Memories. You learnt early to bury the pain that weighted your mind, to throw yourself into the dance of daily life, or toss into the bin the candy-coloured capsules that slowed your tongue. Sometimes you did both, but the frantic jig and hopscotch that ensued brought no joy into your children's lives. They learnt too that others prefer you to edit the past, embrace new age optimism, fling cigarettes, greasy food and other chosen crutches away, pretend to be one of the undamaged, act, act, act. This is Fill Your Glass. It's dedicated to David Brown. I had a discussion with David one night in the hotel about how we speak to people who are long gone, have conversations with the dead while we're walking down the street or in the park. And, in this case we were both speaking to the same person, this to Michael Hartnett. Fill your glass. Some of us light candles in the darkness of our sorrow, or converse with birds in public parks to the perplexity of strangers, and none of us worry that our sanity is less than granite-like, except perhaps on days when we hear voices, departed friends telling us, enough of all this sentimental guff, fill your glass to overflowing, drink long and deep. This is for Bridget. She's Rewind, Bridget who did this beautiful cover. Count backwards to the thrill of each shutter-caught second. From the spread of a heron's heavy wings above an icy lake, to the shaky pub shots of half-remembered strangers and froth-filmed glasses. Slip back to sobriety and the midnight views of a moonless town. Trip back to where a rain-ruined teddy sits sentry on a child's grave. Spool over and over on the shrinking balloons and weather-bleached dolls, and step back to capture the artist who kneels at the foot of a moss-dressed angel, seeking to draw its stone-cold essence into her own warm marrow. Moments after a wren's song has summoned us to its hawthorn stage, where I focus my relentless lens on its throbbing throat, and all these never-to-be-seen, unframed moments fade into memory's shadow, lost in the black, blank strips that burn in my angry fingers as I watch the empty heron's nest and magpies devouring one of their own. With the title poem, Mowing in the Dark. Mother found poetry in places others never fathomed. Summer days spent in the close comfort of city centre cinemas. Seaside trips in winter, foot stomp on the icy stones of empty beaches, mowing grass under an inky pre-dawn sky, the rising green scent of invisible verse seeping through our open windows, seeding our dreams. Thanks very much.
I'm worried about you now. Very rude. Very rude.
Thanks, Pauline.
Thank you, Pauline. That was great. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of them. Mary, M-A-R-I-E. You can't possibly. We don't expect you to.
Old age catching up.
What?
Old age catching up. Forgetting people's names all the time.
Who are you talking Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
See you around.
Thanks very much.
I just think you respond to that. And it sounds like, I said yours, you have rum. I know now. I know. Congratulations. I'll see you tonight. Hopefully the public can talk a little bit, okay? I'm running to pick up David, sir. No, you're great. Thank you so much. It's wonderful. I really enjoyed it.